Hello, good evening. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here in person as well as virtually. I am SL Owens. I am the Chief Cannabis Officer over at CannaTrep at the Trep School. I'm very excited to be here with everyone tonight because we have an amazing program scheduled, given that we have IDFPR in the building with us for a hybrid program, the first of its kind for us in this season post-COVID. And we are excited to be able to answer your questions about the application process. Come in, welcome. So the way we're going to run tonight's program, given the hybrid structure, is that if you are joining us virtually, please go ahead and click the link to the Dropbox where you can find the documents that we will be walking you through tonight. If you are here in person, you can find the document packet right here on this table, as well as some refreshments, pens, and other materials about our program, CannaTrep, if you're new to us. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a roll call in the cannabis industry before I turn the mic over to Vaughn. And I am going to ask people first in the room, if you are a technical assistance provider for one of the state of Illinois agencies, if you could please introduce yourself to us here tonight. And then the next roll call I'll do is, if you're in the room, is if you are a social equity advocate organization that works with social equity, if you could also introduce yourself. And then if you are virtual, I'll tell you to use the Q&A box to say the name of your organization if you're a social equity organization in the state, or to say if you are a technical assistance provider, and I will make that introduction for you. After that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Vaughn Bentley, who will introduce himself and take over the program from there. When Vaughn is finished, then we will move into a Q&A section. If you are in the room, I would like you to come over to this lovely mic right here and ask your questions so that everyone virtually and in the room can hear you. If you are virtual, please put your questions in the Q&A box, and you can start asking those questions right now and as you think of them. If you're in the room and you're not ready to come up to the mic, but you want to start writing down your questions, you can use an index card right there and pass it over, and I can ask it on your behalf, or you can come up here. Is everybody ready to rock and roll? Yes. All right. Now, if you know me, you know that I love a good icebreaker. Everybody knows I do. And so tonight's icebreaker, if you are getting the mic, is if you had to describe your mood as a color today, what color would you choose and why? All right. And so I'll go first. Again, I'm SL Owens. I'm the Chief Cannabis Officer over at CannaTrep at the Trep School. We are a technical assistance provider for the Department of Commerce here in Illinois. If you're not familiar with what technical assistance is, also known as TA, it is a public service that's usually provided through agencies of the government where they onboard different organizations to provide public services to different populations of people. In this particular case with my program, CannaTrep, what we do is provide technical assistance to Illinois social equity applicants. We provide free educational services in law and business, and we also do consulting. And right now we're in a pretty busy season doing individual consulting for conditional license holders who are ramping up to open their doors. All right, so now let's start with the roll call. Oh, color. If I had to choose a color to describe my mood today, that color would be gold. I'm really feeling like the Jill Scott song, living my life like it's golden. Spring is coming, the birds are chirping, the sun is out, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm gonna now turn the mic over to my colleague over here to give us a roll call on technical assistance.
Good evening, everyone. If I had to describe my mood as a color, I'm Danielle Parker. I'm the Chief Engagement Officer with Legit Pathways Academy. I would have to say yellow. I'm going to piggyback off of what SL said. The sun really does wonders for me, and I know the spring is coming. We're going to be in the 70s next week, so I'm feeling really, really good. Again, I'm Danielle Parker, the Chief Engagement Officer with Legit Pathways Academy. We're R3 funded program by ICEJA, where we work with 18 to 25-year-olds who stay in areas that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. We actually provide legal education, career and business development services, and mentorship. Our fellows are able to earn $25 an hour, and if they successfully complete our program, they're also able to get their cannabis legal studies certificate. I'm excited to be with all of you guys tonight in community.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. Do we have in the room another technical assistance provider, meaning that you've been hired by the state of Illinois, one of the agencies, to provide technical assistance in the state for the cannabis industry? All right. Next roll call is, do we have any social equity advocacy groups, any associations or alliances that want to introduce themselves today? I'm seeing a yes over here. Come on over. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Hello.
thank you guys.
Oh, thank you. All
Yes.
right. Get into
Okay,
it.
yeah.
Make yourself
I know.
comfortable.
Do I have to?
Yeah,
Oh.
go ahead so you can hear your sound.
Oh, okay. There it goes.
There you
Okay, thank
go.
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so first tell us your name.
So my name is Yesenia.
Okay, Yesenia.
I'm a content writer here in Illinois, a cannabis content writer, a board member on a nonprofit. It's called UCIA, which is the United Latino Cannabis Industry Alliance, basically pushing the narrative forward for Latinos in the cannabis industry. And so here to just, gather information.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you for joining us.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate your time tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Of course. Thank you very much. Do we have any other social equity organizations in the space? Come on over. Thank you very much. How you doing?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ernest Downing Jr. I'm former, co-founder of Grow Mental Labs, Cannabis Equity Coalition. One of the writers that's caused this to happen since 2018. I was one of the original of the coalition that they got this to pass. So I'm here to support you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you for being a founding father, if you don't mind me saying that, an archetype, for really what has been influential across the country. Thank you so much. I feel like I got a piece of history here with me.
Oh yeah. I'm just sitting back watching everything go and travel around the country. That's what I've been doing.
All right, then. Now wait a minute. Now what's your color that you feeling today? If you do my icebreaker, you're gonna have to come back. Now, if you had to describe your mood today as a color, what color would you choose and why?
Wow, that's a good question. You got me. I'm gonna use that asking questions. Color. Green. Yeah, green.
Okay.
Blossom.
Blossoming.
Yeah.
Yes, spring.
Yeah, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I've been supporting you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you.
From the backside.
I appreciate that.
That's the way to be. That's the way we need to be.
Covered.
That's the way we need to be.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Yesenia, you have to come back down here and tell us your color.
So I hate to piggyback off it, but definitely my favorite color or my current feeling would be green as well.
All right.
April is 420 month. It's also my birthday month. And so yeah, so 423. My birthday is 423.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. Yeah. So it's a feeling of green all month. Look at that.
Look at that.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so we have a Jordan Melendez. Is that covering everybody in the room? Yes, all right, so a roll call virtually. Jordan Melendez, let's see here. Okay, so let's go ahead and see about, give me 1 second to roll through who all is on here. You all will not be able to see any of the speakers except for me, the moderator, and IDFPR, because the way we are going to record this being our first time and all, is we're only going to upload the audio to this. We are not going to upload the video because your girl, hey, I'm an attorney now. You know, I don't have all of those skills yet. I'm working on it. All right. And so let's see, we have Anthony Allegri, who is representing 40 Tons brand here tonight. And let's see if there's anybody else out here. All right, we have Pamela Taylor. She says, I am a proud member of the Cannabis Equity Illinois Coalition and a board member to the Illinois Minority Cannabis Business Owners Association. If anyone else wants to jump in this roll call virtually, please throw it in the Q&A and I will give you a shout out. All right, now we are going to get started. As a first generation attorney from the Austin neighborhood, and of course I got to throw that out here tonight because if you didn't know about Austin, I'm guessing you know about Austin now. And I am excited to be able to be in the room and be in community with IDFPR, one of the leading cannabis agencies in our state. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Vaughn. And I want you to remember as part of your intro that you also got to tell us your color.
Absolutely. So my name is Vaughn Bentley. I am the Deputy Director of the Cannabis Control Section at IDFPR. For those who haven't encountered us before, that stands for the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. Part of what we do is regulate cannabis dispensaries, and that's why I'm here today, but we also regulate a whole host of other professions from credit unions, state chartered banking, cosmetologists, nurses, pretty much any licensed profession other than teachers and lawyers. And you can find a whole host of information on our website, idfpr.illinois.gov. Or if you just Google IDFPR, we should be one of the first links that come up. My color would have to be as well green, because at IDFPR, all things are a go. We are moving and very excited to be holding both the applications for this round of conditional licenses and the lottery that will be held, as well as opening up new cannabis dispensaries for social equity applicants who received a conditional license in the last lottery. We are up to 13 with new ones coming on every week, and very excited to continue to see those businesses grow and succeed. But tonight I will keep it to the upcoming or the current application and upcoming lottery. So to go over everything, right now and until April 21st at 5 p.m. Central, applications are open for the next round of conditional licenses that are focused on social equity. It's a very simple application. We did hear the feedback from the last round that it was a very difficult application, that really dissuaded people from applying. And in listening to that, we wanted to make this as streamlined as possible. The current application is about 2 pages. It really only asks some very basic questions. Your name, we need your social security or your ITIN number, either one. Any business partners you have, a proposed entity name, and then just some questions as to whether or not you meet the criteria, but you don't have to specify which yet. It also does come with a $250 application fee that is non-refundable as of the day we hold the lottery. If anyone applies mistakenly or wishes to withdraw their application at any point in time, you are more than able to do so. We have a form you have to fill out on our website, and typically those are processed within about a week. But we'll move away from withdrawing and on to what actually the application consists of. So to qualify as a social equity applicant in this round, there are 2 sets of criteria. First is criteria A, and that is at first it looks a lot more complicated than it is, but it deals with where you live or whether you're receiving any sort of government assistance. And then there's criteria B, which is the social justice involved criteria. So for criteria A, there's 5 different ways to qualify. First, if you live in an area with 20% or more poverty rate, according to the last census tract. Second, if you live in an area where a certain percentage of people receive SNAP benefits. If you live in an area where you are in the top 15 percentile for those who did not graduate high school. And if you live in an area that is qualified as what is called a food desert by the US Department of Agriculture. Rather than force people to hunt down that census tract information and do a whole bunch of math that honestly is even a bit above my head, we have created a map that's available on our website. You plug in the address you've lived at, and it will tell you essentially if you live in a green zone, which is an area that has one or more of those qualifiers. And it'll also tell you which of those qualifiers. If you don't live in one of those areas, the other way to qualify is if you have received Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, or Social Security and disability income, or have received subsidized housing. For all of those factors, it has to be for 5 of the last 10 years. That 5 of 10, it does not have to be consecutive years. So if you've moved around, moved in and out of an area, or gone on and off of assistance programs, which we know is very common, that is A-okay. Just have to be 5 of the last 10. And you do not have to currently live there. The way you will prove that, on our website, we have an acceptable documents guide. So you can even start gathering those documents in case you win. But generally speaking, it's going to be some sort of benefits letter if you receive benefits, or a lease or other documentation to show your address. Can also be a property deed if you own your home. And really, we're willing to work with folks to figure out what suits them. Additionally, it's not just you who would qualify. There's also your family members. So son, mother, daughter, father, or other dependent. If any of them live in one of those areas or receive that sort of assistance, they also qualify, but you would qualify as well. So if you qualify, all of those folks qualify as well. And they're more than able to enter the lottery if they so choose. The second criteria B, is our social justice involved. So this is for certain crimes. If you've been arrested, adjudicated delinquent, or convicted of possession of cannabis not over 50 grams, or manufacture or possession with intent to deliver of not more than 200 grams. Also, if one of your family members has been arrested, convicted, adjudicated delinquent. To prove that, assuming you are selected in the lottery, we just need a copy of the charging documents, police report, conviction paperwork, expungement paperwork. There's a whole host of ways to prove it. And we also give some ideas on how to get those documents. The third criteria, which is brand new to this round, is whether you are a victim of gunshot violence. So gunshot violence is pretty expansive. It is any penetrating wound from I believe, black powder or gunpowder projectile. And victim is also pretty broad. So you don't have to have been the victim in the traditional sense itself. It can be that you witnessed a shooting, that you have a family member who was unfortunately shot. There are a number of ways to qualify, and we have information about that. It can be proven by police record or medical record, and there's no time limit on that. So if this is something you witnessed a long time ago or happened to you a long time ago, and you go and make a police report today, you will still qualify. That's all the evidence you need, and you're all set. Because we know that is a very sensitive topic in a number of communities, and we want to be present to that and keep that in mind. So once the application window closes on the 21st, we have a few days to publish a list of everyone who applied and met the qualifications to enter the lottery. So that'll be posted to our website. If for whatever reason you do not see yourself on there, you have 5 days to raise your hand and fill out a form saying, hey, I applied, I should be on the list, I'm not, and we will correct that if that is in fact the case. We want to make sure no one's left out inadvertently due to human or computer error. Once that list has been finalized, we post it again, so you get to see the final list of everyone who participates. And we hold the lottery in conjunction with the Illinois State Lotto. So the same people who run the Mega Millions and all of the other lottery programs in the state are the ones who run our lottery. Because we want someone who we know knows this stuff, can handle it, and someone that is generally trustworthy in this space. We post the list of the winners that same day, and winners are also notified by email. So you'll get an email to the email address you put in your application saying, hey, you were selected. The final list is posted probably the same day, but for technical glitches, it might be posted the next day, but we aim to post that same day. And then what starts next is what's called the 45-day prove-up period. This is when you should submit the documents showing, hey, yes, I meet the criteria A, criteria B. Here's the document showing it. If there's an issue with those documents and we receive them in those 45 days, we will notify you and say, hey, we notice you submitted a lease that isn't signed, or we can't read this document for whatever reason. Just to make sure that everyone has the chance to, submit all the documents and they are correct. We then have at least 60 days to grade or review all of the material that's submitted to us. And that's not your last chance. If we notice something is missing, we still contact you in that 60-day period. And you have 10 days to, get back to us. Oh, this is the document I meant to send you, or here's a signed copy, etc. That's based on a lot of the feedback we heard last time of people being confused, why certain things were rejected, stuff like that. After that 60-day period, we have to do some checks. We have to make sure that you and your business partners don't hold more than 10 licenses in the state, that you are compliant with your Illinois state taxes, and assuming both of those go okay, which they generally have, you are issued your conditional license when you can begin your build out. Right now, there's 360 days. That's always subject to change with legislation, and we are exploring options to lengthen that time window on our own as well. And with that, I think I'd open it up to any questions.
Okay, so just as a reminder, for those of us who are familiar with how we do webinars and programs at TREP, and as a educational point for those who are new, we understand that the Illinois cannabis industry can fill us with tons of questions. All right. In order to make sure that we can really focus tonight's technical assistance on the application window at hand, we are going to focus our questions on the application process happening right now. If you have other questions that you would like for us to address, I would like you to go to www.CannaTrep.com and submit them through our brief advising program, where we will be able to actually thoroughly research what you ask and give you an educated answer. All right. So let's focus on tonight. So if you throw a question in this Q&A box virtually that doesn't have anything to do with the topic at hand tonight, I am going to send you over to CannaTrep.com's brief advising program. I am going to ask our participants in the room to use some discipline when coming up to the mic here to ask questions and keep them on point, because I don't want to have to go full school teacher in here tonight and send you to the principal's office. All right. All right. So before I open up the moderated questions, I do want to point out a few things you said, especially because they are things that I saw some of us get tripped up on. So the first one being about how every member in your household and your family can apply. And during this application round, you are limited to one application.
Yes, that is correct. You can only appear on one application total. That is tied to your Social Security or ITIN number. So if you try to submit multiple applications in your name, you will be rejected. We did that to make sure that no one was able to flood the application window because they happen to have more money than anyone else.
Okay. And then the other part of what I heard though, which I hadn't thought about, which is why I'm so glad you joined us tonight, is that if you're trying to increase equity for your family, then perhaps everyone could submit an application lawfully to increase the opportunity in the lottery, as opposed to perhaps jumping on one application, which would limit your opportunity in the lottery. It seems like you could do that.
Yes,
All right, so make sure
absolutely.
you guys, make sure y'all caught that now. All right, and then the next thing that I want to make sure that I uplift that you're saying is about the gun violence, because that was one that really tripped a lot of us up because we didn't realize that was a defined term. And when I say defined term, I mean in an administrative code that they publish. If you guys want links to that because you're not on our listserv, email us at cannabis@thetrepschool.com and we will point you to where you can find these laws and rules and definitions. But could you just one more time walk us through the gun violence, because that is a huge thing in our communities. And I really want to make sure that everyone is understanding that, because we got so many questions about who is a victim of gun violence, what type of weapons. And so if you could kind of, and as well as documentation, like medical records versus police records, how old those records could be. It sounds like they could be as new as you go file your report tomorrow or today. So could you just walk us through that point one more time?
Absolutely. So as SL had said, firearm injury as well as victim is defined in our administrative code. Part of the materials that were provided tonight are our frequently asked questions. We know that this is a question that we were going to get. If you look on page 3, there's the definition of firearm injury, which means a gunshot wound or penetrating injury from a weapon that uses a powder charge to fire a projectile. Weapons that use a that should be powder charge, include handguns, rifles, and shotguns. It does not include air or gas powered guns, so those airsoft guns, BB guns, or pellet guns. So it's pretty broad. It's anything that uses a powder charge. I don't know if people in the audience are into hunting, but like muzzle loaded rifles, that would count because it uses a powder charge. Any handgun, unless it's air or gas powered, any sort of rifle, any sort of shotgun. And it's not limited to just those 3 categories. I know I am not the most gun savvy, so if there are other types of weapons that use a powder charge that you were injured by, those also qualify. For victim, if you look on page 4 at the bottom, we have what qualifies as victim. So that was a person who was injured as a result of a firearm injury perpetrated or attempted against them. So it doesn't have to be something that succeeds. If it is the spouse, parent, or child, or anyone in a similar relationship. So we understand that many forms of family structure exist. So if someone is like your son or like your daughter, but they aren't actually related, that's fine. If you were injured while attempting to assist someone, that would count. If you were injured assisting law enforcement, or if you personally witnessed the firearm injury. All of those people qualify. That's covered on pages 4 and 5 of our FAQ. As for the records, yes, they can be as old or as new as they happen to be. So if this is something you witnessed years ago, you did not file a police report for any number of reasons, but you feel comfortable approaching your physician, your nurse practitioner, or another healthcare practitioner, you can tell them about it and get a write-up of that visit. We accept that. You can go today to file a police report if you feel comfortable doing so, but we do fully understand the apprehension behind that, which is why we also wanted to include that medical record option.
Could you go to your attorney?
That probably would not qualify.
Okay, a medical provider, a counselor, social services, therapists, social workers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. One one more question before I start bringing them in from others. Do you have to have documented status to apply?
No, you do not. You only need a social security number or an ITIN number, which is an Illinois taxpayer identification number. IDFPR, no matter what your status or no matter what your profession is, will never inquire into immigration status. That is a position we have taken across the board. So if you do happen to be undocumented, you are still eligible to apply, and we will not inquire into your status at any point in the application process.
Okay, thank you, because that's a question that we've been receiving, and so I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure we're confirmed we're giving the right information here. Okay, first we're gonna start in the room. Any questions right now in the room that you all want to ask before I start taking some from online? And if you do, could you come and say it on the mic? Because we have to make sure that everyone can hear this. What, okay, what, see, I can't hear you because I got it.
Brother and sister, that's extended family. because they represent me, it's in-
Do you know what he's asking?
Yeah, so that's covered by a
Can you
member of an
repeat it?
impacted.
Fine, can you
Yep.
repeat it for the crowd, his question?
So the question was, could a sibling or cousin qualify? And I apologize, I may have misspoke. The member, it is determined by member of impacted family, which is an individual who has a parent, legal guardian, child, spouse, or dependent, or you were a dependent of them. So brother, cousin, most likely not, but it may qualify under if you were their dependent or you were, they were your dependent rather.
What was the last part? Tax returns, you all, in terms of documentation showing dependency.
That or it can be done through an attestation that we provide. Yep. So if, fully understand that tax return, it may have been a long time ago that this person was your dependent. So if you don't have those tax returns, I know I definitely don't have my tax returns from 10 years ago. Fully understand, and we will make an attestation available.
Okay, to catch everyone up online, we're asking about, right now what we were just discussing is what type of documentation you can use to prove dependency when you are looking at the statutory rule around victim. Is that correct?
Victim or family member for the purposes of people who live somewhere.
Okay. All right. If you're in the room and you have a question, come to the mic for me or write it right on one of these, have them pass you some paper. I'm gonna have to be a librarian about it because this is the only way that we can make all of this information accessible both in the room and online. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Gina. I'm also a board member of ULSIA here with Yesenia. My question actually was related to criteria to gun violence. In terms of that, I know you said it has to be gunpowder, but if there were any exceptions of people that may have gone through domestic violence cases that don't necessarily have any gun-related charges, because that's something else that heavily affects people of color in general. So I was just wondering if there was any, under that criteria that someone like that would be eligible because they still, are a victim of violence, but not necessarily gun violence.
Unfortunately, with the way the rules are written, we don't really have any wiggle room there. It does have to be a powder charged weapon. I am, though, listening and hearing that feedback, and that's something we can consider for future rounds. And I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, no. I wanted just clarification in case, other people can kind of fall under that criteria and broaden the application pool.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna move your mic a little bit.
Yes.
There we go. I'll open up for one more question in the room and then I'm gonna turn it over into our virtual questions. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Why was the lottery date extended in this round of applications? And will the lottery be transparent and throughout the whole process?
Certainly. So the lottery date was extended for a number of reasons. And I know we've extended it a number of times, and we have heard the feedback of the frustration that's caused. There was the first extension when we just wanted to have the window open as long as possible. That was the March 10th date. We extended it again because at no fault of anyone applying, the wrong application was uploaded, and we wanted to give everyone a fair chance and the full amount of time possible, given it was a technical glitch that took the application down for about a week. The final extension, which was from March 10th to April 21st, was for another variety of reasons. One being that we didn't have the resources available for Spanish-speaking applicants. In addition, we had heard some feedback that there were people unable to plan town halls that we wanted to cooperate with and wanted to give folks as much time to apply and gather those resources as possible.
So just to be clear, the current deadline right now is what date and what time?
April 21st at 5 p.m. Central.
All right. I'm going to turn it over to our virtual audience, but you all can still.
Yes, so the lottery will be handled, like I said, by the Illinois State Lottery. I know there have been requests that we live stream the lottery and have that on camera. Unfortunately, because we do use the Illinois State Lottery, they have certain policies in place that prevent us from being able to do so because those are the machines that are used to run every other lottery in the state of Illinois. They have security concerns about releasing information about those machines. That said, we do have two auditors, one from the state of Illinois and one who is independent, following us through the entire process. So it is as above board as we can make it.
Hold on, let them know what's happening. So right now we're still on the question of the transparency of the lottery process. And Vaughn just described what the procedures and protocols, as well as what some of the restrictions are in working with another agency to carry out this function. Because as far as I know, IDFPR doesn't have the bandwidth internally to do an actual lottery like this themselves.
We do not, and we understand that, if we had tried to put together a lottery ourselves, we don't have the expertise in that like the Illinois State Lottery has.
Okay, and then the next part of it was Vaughn explaining what two representatives would be in there, and that will be
an auditor from the state of Illinois. It is not an auditor from our agency, it's from a central agency, and an external auditor from an external firm.
And then the next follow-up question was, will there be a member of the community that would be able to also be a part of this viewing? Did I get that accurate? Okay.
That is something I have to look into. We have not in the past, again, due to just the security concerns, but I have to ask the questions to our folks before I know whether it's a yes or a no. But that is something I will follow up with you on and let you know the answer.
Sure, thank you. And one of the other things I just want to make sure, because we have both groups in, that Vaughn went through in terms of like some of the restrictions and limitations of working with the lottery folks in this, is that we can't record it. Is that what I'm hearing? So we won't be able to watch a video of the entire process going down. So it'll be in private with these representatives. And the concern I'm hearing is like, but without anyone that represents the community. And then you're going to talk to your people, perhaps send some follow-up information to us at CannaTrep. And then y'all know I'm going to send it out through email. Hopefully y'all don't get tired of my emails. I am. And you know what? I got you. And so the follow-up just now was, what about an option of the community representatives being someone who is a technical assistance provider to one of the Illinois state agencies like CannaTrep, given that we are an independent organization and we don't have any interest in licenses. That's not, we always tell y'all, hey, one thing about us, you're going to get some non-conflicting, non-biased information because we have internal protocols at our company around making sure that we are not competing against the communities that we serve. Okay, we will follow back up with you all on that. Okay, well, hold on. I'm gonna do one more, and then we gotta let some people virtually ask questions.
Future rounds. I like the idea of late set domestic violence. But we were really affected by that. And I think that in cannabis, that financing, city protection should go into that. That leads up to.
Yeah, so the question / feedback that we had received was whether in future rounds we could consider domestic violence because that does affect communities of color and disproportionately impacted communities with cannabis, and whether some of the money that is collected from taxes as well as licensing can go towards both domestic violence prevention and gunshot prevention. So it's always impossible to speak to the future, but that is something we are always open to considering. We very much value community feedback. So that is a great idea. As for the money, there is certain money that goes back to local governments from cannabis tax revenue through the local government development fund, as well as certain R3 grants, which is reinvest, restore, and renew, which does also go to local communities. But we are always open to feedback on how that money could be better used and how we can better target the communities that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks for everybody for your patience as I figure out how to do this 2 ways. The next question that we have is coming in from our virtual audience. Eric Spencer, I believe that we answered your question, which is why did Illinois decide to delay the lottery a few times? So if you have another follow-up, please throw it into the Q&A. Then we have Anthony oh, that's not a question. All right, we got Jordan here. If individuals withdraw their application, does that exclude them from resubmitting an application, whether individually or with the same members as the initial application?
Once an application is withdrawn, you are able to resubmit either yourself with other partners. So if your makeup has changed, that is an option. Once you withdraw your application, you should be able to resubmit up to that closing date. I recommend folks look at whether or not they need to withdraw or want to withdraw as soon as possible. There are always technical glitches that may come up. And if we are unable to process that request in time, we need at least 72 hours in advance to make sure, because we do have a small team, to make sure that we do our due diligence. We make sure that it's the correct application. It's the person filling it out does actually represent that group. And we aren't taking anyone out of the lottery mistakenly. But there's more information on that form on our website.
And to call back to something you said earlier, you mentioned that you can withdraw all the way up until before the lottery takes place.
You can. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep. If for whatever reason you want to withdraw after the date closes, you can still submit that withdrawal form. But after the application closes, you will not be able to resubmit. We don't have the ability or the authority to reopen an application after the window closes.
And you can get a refund up until before the lottery.
Yep. That does take us some time to process, but we do it as soon as we can.
Okay. Next question coming in. Does inclusionary housing qualify as subsidized housing? Chicago, Illinois has an inclusionary housing program that provides below market rate housing to low income people.
So I am not as familiar with the exclusionary housing program in the city of Chicago, but if it is in any way subsidized by the government, and it sounds like it is, I can't say for sure without looking into it more, that would be acceptable. So if that's, we fully understand that different communities treat subsidized housing in different ways. It's not just Section 8 housing. It's not just that you receive a check for your housing. If it is in any way subsidized by the government, that would qualify.
Usually the inclusionary housing programs are a subsidiary program of the Federal Department of Housing. Eric, what I would like you to do is send us over at CannaTrep through brief advising on our website. Send us the name of the program and the location, and we will research it for you and let you know which agency it's a part of and confirm that information for you. All right, next question, and then I'll take one. You got one more? Okay, so one more from in here. The gunshot victim, for the gunshot victim, how many times can their name be on an application?
So for any qualification, you yourself can only be on one application, but if someone qualifies through you, that is, however many people qualify through you can submit an application. And for everyone's awareness, we do not ask who the person was in the initial application. We may need to collect that information during the prove-up period, but I want to assure everyone that applications are fully confidential. We are unable to share them with anyone outside of very select people. Primarily, it's department staff because we have to process those applications. But this information is about as secure as we can make it. So this is not information that will be given out to anyone unless we legally have to give them that information.
Okay, I want you to come on up to be in queue. I'm gonna do one from the web and then you're immediately after. All right. Jordan asks, the list of acceptable documents guide. It appears the list of acceptable documents is more restrictive than previous lotteries. For example, either providing the past 10 years of tax records or 2 of the X number of documents for the 5 of the preceding years. The list of acceptable documents does not include tax records. So are tax records acceptable proof only if one can show past 10 years, or may someone use the last 5 years and other acceptable documents as their proof?
So I appreciate that, Jordan. I know you've caught a number of things. We really only need the 5-year window. So I don't believe we should need 10 years of tax records. I will go on tomorrow to look at that guide again and make sure that it's clear. And it can be a combination of documents. So tax records, you will only need 1. That's per the statute. If you have 5 years of tax records that show you lived in that area, that's great. If it is the 2 of X documents, you need 2 for each year you lived there, but documents can count across multiple years. So for example, if you have a driver's license, that can count for multiple years. We know that does not renew every year, and we are very aware of that.
All right, we're gonna do 1-to-1. So 1 in the room, then 1 online, 1 in the room, 1 online, so that we can make this equitable. Go ahead.
Okay, so how will IDFPR actually help the social equity applicants in terms of sustaining funding besides just the license alone? Because a lot of people within at least the Latino community are being targeted because they do follow under the criteria, but not necessarily are they being set up to be successful within the industry. So does IDFPR have any plans in terms of, somehow finding resources for them to get funding outside of relying in private investors?
Yes, so our department does not primarily work with loans, but what we do is partner with the Department of Economic Commerce and Opportunity, DCEO. They offer certain non-forgivable loans. I know that those have been slow to start. We have talked with them about being aware of this next round. Those should be available. I can confirm with our crew, the acting crew, Aaron Johnson, to make sure that funds will be made available. But that is something we're very much aware of and are absolutely exploring other options.
Crew is the Cannabis Regulation Oversight Officer in their office, just in case anyone is not familiar with that acronym. All right, we're going to take, oh, that's a,
Take it back now. What about the
employees, people who are applying for these licenses because there are. What's the plan there? Because I'm at, just in relation to this too, like the Spanish speaking material for this. Where's one?
Let me repeat it for them and then you tag me. Okay, so the question in the room was, what is IDFPR doing to combat predatory practices within the cannabis industry targeting social equity applicants in the Latino and other communities? Some of these listings you may find on places like Craigslist and cold calling. And so we are asking in the room, what is IDFPR doing? Because some of these are scams and some of them are malicious ways of phishing opportunities to get your private information or any other number of trickery. And so can you respond to that, Vaughn?
Absolutely. So with the actual scams that are out there, we have put out information about those scams, warning folks, we are aware of them. We are doing what we can in that space. We are limited in our regulatory authority, but it is something we have our eye on. With regard to the predatory practices, that is something we've tried to spread information to various advocacy groups, knowing that, our team is limited, but it is something we are looking at and something that we are looking at. How can we best prevent that? To the extent there is any feedback, any suggestions, I, of course, always welcome those, and any discussions that we could have, because I know that, I do not have all of the answers, but I welcome folks who may have more answers and more feedback than I am able to provide on my own. I will say we are aware of both of those. It's something we're watching very closely, and something we're looking into options as to what we can do to protect communities, as that is part of our mission, is to protect the public, both the consumers as well as our licensees where it's appropriate.
We took 2 in a room, so we got a queue. I'm gonna take 2 online. All right. If Marquita asks, if my brother passed due to gun violence, can my father put an application in on his behalf?
Yes. So it will be your father applying, but that will qualify as it was his son or his dependent.
All right. Eric asks, is a federal EIN tax number good for the application?
Unfortunately, we do need a social security or ITIN number. We will eventually need an EIN number once we get to issuing the conditional license. But something we have been asked and that I wanted to mention briefly, you do not need to form a corporation in order to apply. You just need an intended name for that corporation. We understand that there's a cost associated with that, and we wanted to reduce that burden.
Before I turn it over to the room, Yashika, you're up next virtually, and I would like you to give me some more context in the Q&A to your question. You asked, does father-in-law or any in-law work? And I want to know a little bit more about what do you mean by that question, which area of the application, and then we'll jump to your question. Okay, thank you. Back to the room.
So following up with what you were saying earlier, in terms of the predatory practices, I actually do have a few suggestions. If, let's say, an applicant were to find out that they were under these circumstances, would IDFPR actually remove them as officers off of their application? So then they can just be the primary holders of the licenses, regardless of any contracts they signed prior, to make it literally a social equity application, applicant being given this license versus it being handed over to somebody else. But not only that, even if, let's say, the person that won the license wants to withdraw because of that, would those be options that, maybe down the line they would be able to do, or have that as like an open space for them to go into?
Yeah, so with the first option that was presented, that's something I'd have to look into a little bit more. There's a number of legal restrictions, and I don't want to give out false information. That said, it's something we definitely will explore. And as for the second question about withdrawing, absolutely, that person can withdraw.
And I know you said that once the application is closed, but would this be like a certain circumstance that they would be able to resubmit the application? If they were to be under these circumstances, find funding on their own and resubmit the application?
That is something I'm going to want to check with our legal department on, just to make sure that it's all above board. I myself am a lawyer, but we have a legal department because I now work in operations more so.
And I'll make sure that I follow up with all attendees and email you all the responses that we get. Before we do this, I want to chime in because of the nature of some of the questions we're getting. And I want to ask some of you all to go on our website and look at our webinar that we did in January on legislative advocacy and how Illinois cannabis law is made, because I think it would help a lot of advocates understand which particular legal systems are where you want to go to get things done and make changes happen. So on a regulatory level, there are just certain things that our regulatory bodies can and cannot do because they are empowered by the legislator, and the legislator comes up with a body of law that then instructs our regulators to do certain things. Just kind of give you a preview of that webinar. And then you have the other system being our legislators, and they are the ones who make all of the framework for our regulated industry, including deciding which regulators are going to be involved and what they want those regulators to do. So sometimes you may have to go to your legislators to talk to them about things you want to see happening with your regulators. All right. And then the other third body we talked about at that webinar are the judiciary branch. So we got the executive branch with the regulators, we got the legislative branch with the legislators, and then we got the judiciary branch with the lawyers and judges, and that is also an arm within the cannabis industry that helps shape and mold certain parts of law, and where sometimes you just have to go there to get certain type of relief that maybe a regulator can't give you, particularly thinking about some of these predatory practices. It might just be, some constrictions there. Okay, am I on virtual or in the room? Oh, thank you. All right, virtually we have Yashika came in and clarified the question saying, in reference to family relationships, can the person be my daughter-in-law or must it be my daughter/stepdaughter that I personally cared for?
That is something I'm going to have to take to our legal department. I want to make sure I'm giving you the right answer. I will get that answer as soon as I can.
Okay, one more. Hello there. What is the criteria on out-of-state appliers? Our team has 3 people. 1 lives in inner city Chicago and 2 live in another state, of which those 2 have past cannabis convictions. Does that do we qualify? Do we all qualify to apply?
So there is no requirement that someone live in the state of Illinois, that anything be Illinois centric. If they live anywhere in the country, and our map is set up to reflect both Illinois and the rest of the country, as long as they meet those 2 requirements, they will qualify.
Pamela asks, what is the review process for the application and what entity will be in charge of reviewing the application? And essentially, will there be a third party that's not IDFPR handling processing of the applications? And if so, can you share who that might be?
Sure. The review process will be overseen by IDFPR, but we are engaging a third-party firm. I cannot say which one it is yet. It has not been finalized. It is not KPMG, though.
Okay. I'm going to turn to the room now. You guys, I appreciate y'all. Everybody is just being so patient. I really do appreciate it.
First, I'd like to say good evening, everybody in the room and everybody attending virtually. And I'd like to double back to some ground that we covered specifically about certain types of practices that can verge on predatory, if not crossing over into that. And part of the reason why I'd like to double back to that is that I recently read an opinion piece / report in a local newspaper. And based on the information that we shared here tonight, I think it's important to debunk what might be some misinformation, just so people have a good understanding, quality firsthand information about what to expect in the process. And what struck me as being likely untrue in this report was the suggestion that if someone becomes party to a contract that may be predatory, that there's an expectation that IDFPR is reviewing that contract, that private contract between the parties, to somehow assess the predatory nature of these things. And to me, that article, if you read it, you might leave with the impression that you can rely on the agency right now, and the agency currently has the capacity to do this sort of analysis and assessment. And my understanding here is that that is not currently the case.
Unfortunately, you are correct. That is not currently the case. We are also limited in our authority in what we can do. So while we are always happy to answer questions, there are certain things that we statutorily, legally cannot delve into, private contracts being one of those. But as I said, any feedback, any suggestions, we always welcome, as we want, like everyone, for this program to succeed.
All right, thank you. That question coming in the room from Sam Owens, another technical assistance provider in the cannabis space at Legit Pathways Academy.
Wow. Okay. It's twofold. He asked a great question. He brought up a good situation. Who has the authority to cancel that hold? For them to, say for instance, they won. So who will do the checks and balances on that?
So because it's a private contract, I can't speak to every term that's in there. Generally speaking, and I'm also prohibited from giving any legal advice. Generally speaking, there are termination clauses in contracts, so that's something to look to. Additionally, a court, it depends on the contract, which court can also nullify contracts.
Yes.
Okay.
Often it's gonna be something that's playing out in the court system, meaning the person who has been harmed will have to file a claim here in one of our court systems, either our federal court or our state court system. And there are tons of remedies around unconscionable contracts. It's kind of the general legal education part that I want to put out there. And to the extent that you all want to delve into unconscionable contracts more or have questions, just so that we can make sure we're respectful of everybody's time, I urge you to use our brief advising program, where I can kind of really do some real research on what you all are talking about tonight, and then give you a direct response from us.
My main question is, just listening to earlier, the lottery's next week, hopefully after the 21st, or 2 weeks from now. And once that happens, they got the 45 days. When does the new agency, the scoring, is going to look at the exhibits to make sure they qualify? If they don't qualify, how does the process get to the next?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah, we will do a preliminary review of the applications that are submitted to make sure the documents aren't corrupted, they aren't, that nothing's missing, we aren't missing signatures, et cetera, stuff like that. Then we enter that 60-day review period. Once we've determined someone does not qualify, they have 10 days to fix that. If they're unable to do so, it's at that point we move to the next person on the lottery list.
Okay. Jordan online is asking, please correct me if I'm wrong. Individuals who just turned 21 may use their parents' or guardians' tax records to prove they live in a qualifying census tract.
Jordan, that is correct. You can use your parent or guardian, their tax records to show you live there, since you may not have any of your own.
All right, we already answered the question about there being no restrictions for Illinois residency, so we're going to move on. Does withdrawing require consent from all parties on the application?
It does not. There are certain restrictions that are covered on the form. If for whatever reason you are in a situation that does not meet that, I highly suggest you reach out and we'll see what sort of solution we can come up with to make sure that you are not on an application that you do not want to be on.
Another way to help avail yourself of something that's in the regulatory power if you are a victim of some unconscionable predatory conduct. Am I not? No, you got it. You putting it in the. All questions should be going in the Q&A box. All right. We've got Yashika Friend saying, for criteria B, does the gun violence victim have to pass the background check if they are on the application? The person was wounded by a stray bullet but has felony convictions.
So there is no, it's a bit of a two-part. So there is no background check that's required as part of qualifying. We do require fingerprints per statute. We have to run a background check. But I can say confidently, there are no convictions that will automatically disqualify anyone from holding an ownership license or from working at a dispensary. I know that is a thing in the medical cannabis realm. And in that case, please just shoot us an email. We can talk you through it.
All right, thank you. Pamela asks, could you, Vaughn, restate your full name and your role at IDFPR?
Yes, my name is Vaughn Bentley. The spelling of that is Vaughn. My last name Bentley, and I am the Deputy Director of the Cannabis Control Section, which oversees the regulation of all dispensaries in the state of Illinois.
Thank you. I have one last question in our Q&A box, so don't you guys go trying to roll in anymore. And then I'm going to open it up for last questions in the room, and we are done. Pardon me if you have already answered this, but what are the statute of limitations for social equity residency? I grew up and lived in a social equity area or zip code until 2018. I moved to the suburbs that year. Do I still qualify as a social equity applicant?
As long as you have 5 of the last 10 years, you do qualify. Months there are going to be important because it does go back to 2013. You should qualify, but I can't say for certain. If you go to our website, we have an email address where you can contact us. And if you shoot me an email, I'll be more than happy to answer that question.
Okay. That is all the questions we're going to take from our Q&A online. I really appreciate you all for joining us virtually and for having the patience on both sides to work through this first time we've ever done a hybrid model like this in this post-COVID season. And if you have additional questions, though, please send them to us through our brief advising program at www.CannaTrep.com, where we will research those questions and get you answers as quickly as we can, especially knowing that everybody is under a deadline. We work around the clock to get you those answers as fast as possible. And is there last call for one last in the room? I appreciate you all. Vaughn has some cards here today that he's going to share, and I'm going to make sure I also send that out to all of the virtual attendees so that you also have access to this. Any last words from you, Vaughn?
Just that we encourage everyone who qualifies to apply. Very much the only way you are guaranteed not to win is if you don't submit an application. If there are any questions, always feel free to reach out, whether it deals with this licensure round or even something unrelated that IDFPR handles. I am always more than happy to take phone calls, emails. I will route you to the right place if I don't have the answer.
We appreciate you, Vaughn. Thank
Absolutely.
you for your time. Thank you for, as I say, coming outside. All right. Thank you all for coming in virtually. Thank you in the room for coming outside. This is the end of our program today here at CannaTrep. We appreciate you. Everyone be well and expect the upload of this audio recording to be on our website sometime Monday. All right. Thank you very much. Good night.